Chicken jockey!
Well, we just surpassed 1,000 days. And yep, we've also only just begun. Let's keep it going. There's still another half of the village left to build. Last episode I finished my mega base, splitting up the build for the village. However, we aren't done with it, so today I want to finish up the second half of the village, building a structure for every remaining villager profession, all equipped with their own unique functionality. The first thing I want to tackle is the library, and this is for a few reasons. For one, it's going to take the highest amount of villagers, all equipped with very specific enchantment trades, but also due to getting it over and done with. However, I do want to make the announcement that Mr. Mendy died off camera. I'm not sure what happened. At one point when I was in this world, I got a villager death message and now he's nowhere to be found. This build will be constructed in his honour. Speaking of the villagers, I only need to move them. Right now they're in the way of the landscape and I want to make sure I have enough land to work with. Once they were moved, I started terraforming the land, making a perfect spot for the library to go. Now it's just a case of collecting materials. I was going to need a lot of bricks and quartz, which my stonemasons helped with, wood, which I farmed for, and bookshelves, which my librarians help with. Albeit a very steep price, but does it look like emeralds are scarce in this world? Anyway, here's the build. As with my other builds, I'm going to need beacons for the library, so I took some nether, grabbed some skulls, and killed some withers. Like I did in the first part of this video, I'm not going to put a wither killing montage after every build, but I will include the skull collecting and wither killing in the corner of the build replays just to prove that I actually did them legit. Anyway, I set up the beacons, and with that the actual build is done. The next stage was the part that I wasn't looking forward to, which was collecting all the book trades. This is basically going to be episode 4's villagers on steroids, and with a lot more trial and error. Do we do an encore montage? I think we do an encore montage. So, cue the music, as it's time for me to suffer. I love spending 5 hours on a set of villagers I'll use maybe 5% of the time. To think how many pints of cider I could have downed in that time, and I'm sat here imprisoning Squidwards in a block game. Great. Anyway, with all that done, the last thing I need to do is fill up the bookshelves, and what better book to fill it up with than mending? After all, this is in honour of Mr. Mendy, as well as this whole series starting due to a desire to stock up on mending books. It feels like the series has come full circle. I wish I didn't do this because fuck me, this took ages. But I finally did it, and therefore I can call the library complete. That's 14 hours of time and 45 Minecraft days under the belt, all on this one build. And it's not even that big, just tedious. Next up is my build for the Fletchers. And what better to do for them than a shooting range? Now, I don't really need a shooting range in my world, so I decided that this build will double as my tree farm. As of now, I'm farming trees on top of my melon farm, really for no reason at all, and I need a more dedicated space to farm for wood. I do use tree capitator, so this will be done with just a plot of grass. I don't need a fancy machine for it. Before I start this build, I want to get some terraforming done, which you're going to be seeing a lot of in this video, as the landscape really doesn't work for what I want. Now for this build, I was going to need a lot of wood. Wood for a tree farm. Now that's an oxymoron, and I'm just the second syllable. And that's pretty much all the resources for this build aside from some stone and target blocks. Anyway, here's the build. Afterwards, I continued the wall, extending it outwards until it wrapped around behind the library and shooting range. While adding some temporary lighting to the area, however, this happened. I only got one. Right. Actually got all 4 of them! I got 4 of them! I'll name the skeleton horses later, but as of now they're going nameless. At the end of the video, I'll move them into my base and give them names. Gives me a chance to think on it, you know? Anyway, moving on. The next structure I want to build is the Observatory for my cartographers. While I don't have a big functionality for this build, I do want to have a build with a big world map, something to show off what I've done. And well, the villagers that sell maps would probably be the best shout for that build idea. So I want to build an observatory, maybe one doing research on the UFO in the sky. But I don't have very much land to work with, so let's get to terraforming. For the observatory, I'm leaning away from the wood block palette and returning to stone. So I collected some stone, tuff and deep slate, most of which I had already had, alongside some concrete, glass and glowstone, and got to building. If it feels like I'm rushing through these builds, I'm not. I just don't have overly interesting block palettes with convoluted methods of collecting them. But trust me, there are some things I still want to do that will take up a lot of time. One of which is mapping my world. Now, I knew this was going to be difficult, but I was in for another ride here. So strap in as I take you through this absolute fucking monstrosity of a build. I started out by placing all of the item frames. And that alone made me realise I've definitely bitten off way more than I can chew in terms of size. This is going to be hard, but I've already committed, so why stop here? I then started the map by placing down ones that showed off my current village build, as well as my base, which I centered to the map to give me more space to work with for future builds to be displayed here. Once that was all done, and I had a point of reference, it was then time to map out my world. I spent maybe an entire inventory's worth of rockets just flying back and forth, just filling out maps. If that doesn't show dedication, I don't know what does. Of mapping and only a quarter done. If the maths adds up, that means this will take 12 hours. End my life. My frame rate tanked so it's not coming here. It's gonna be an issue. I mean, it looks good and all, but this has been 6 hours of my life. I don't want to do this anymore. Currently running a very impressive 8 FPS. Finally done, and I really don't think this is worth it. This was like 12 hours of my time. I cannot be fucking no, stop it. Yeah, I genuinely don't think this is worth it. This was fucking painful. This building is forever gonna like my world. This wasn't a massive mistake at all. Anyway, the final villager profession that I'm gonna build a structure for is weirdly the hardest. The cleric. What the fuck is a cleric? Like seriously, what is it? Every other profession is really easy to pinpoint. Farmer gets a farm, shepherd gets a sheep barn, librarian gets a library, etc. But clerics? They don't exist, do they? Just look at what they buy and sell. This isn't a profession, they're just autistic collectors. Their job block is a brewing stand, so they could own a brewery. If I build them with JD Weatherspoons though, I'm gonna look like an alkie. They tend to reside in religious structures in vanilla villages, so do I build them a church? But then again, there's no need to build a religious structure when my base is already a temple. The Minecraft wiki states that a cleric sells unique items that are difficult to obtain in large quantities, which is the most vague thing I've ever read. I had builder's block for ages, but eventually decided that these things aren't clerics. They're scientists. I mean, why else would they be interested in buying rotten flesh, rabbit's foot and scutes? They're doing research. So I'm going to build them a lab, which will also document the lore of this world. I haven't touched lore since episode 6, so I'm going to use this build to spring it back into action. The first thing that I wanted to do was clear out the land next to my base to build it. I wanted to keep it out of the main village to add some mystery and allure to the build. Then it came time to collect materials. I needed a lot of quartz, andesite, diorite, granite, bricks. Yeah, most of this was helped out by the stonemasons. As well as sandstone, which I used my colossal amount of leftover sand for. I also needed a collection of stone brick blocks, so I took to the caves and made a massive hole. This is a mess. Why do I do this to myself? Then deep slate. Ugh, I hate that I do this to myself.
Mining away. I don't know what to mine. I'll mine this anyway.
With that out of the way, I moved on to the smaller block amounts, consisting of birch wood, acacia wood, mud brick, dark oak slabs and trapdoors, and spruce. With all that out of the way though, it's time to begin building. On the ground floor of the lab, I built an exhibition with a variety of entries to do with the world's lore. At the end of the video, I'll go through them, but before I get to that, I need to do one more thing. Finish decorating the rest of the village. I started off by revamping the jungle, building the trees again in an attempt to conceal the lab further away from the village. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this when I started it, but seeing the lab being completely hidden behind trees from my village, it was amazing. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Right, just before the final stretch, I feel like I need to address something. I don't want to do this project anymore. I'm done. I really don't want to do it. I was losing motivation when doing the mapping for the observatory, not only because it was tedious, but because in the midst of doing it, I was also dealing with major builder's block for the cleric structure. There's a reason why this video took 4 months, whereas your average video usually takes 1 to 2 months to make. It's purely motivation based. But I'm at the final stretch. I just need to finish decorating the village floor, and I'm calling it quits. I'm not done by any means, as I do want to have a proper residential area on the second layer, but I'm doing other things before then, as I really don't want to continue working on the village when I've got inspiration to do other things in this world. That being said, let's end this episode once and for all. This is where I would put a massive replay of me decorating the bottom half of my village, but I ran into a big issue, being that literally all my replays weren't saving because of this beautiful error message that gave me nothing to work with. I reinstalled the replay mod and it seemed to fix everything for new replays, but everything up to this point just isn't loading. So that's fun. I guess I could do time-lapses from this point onwards, but yeah, there's just no proof I did anything up to this point. Well, this episode was an absolute clusterfuck. Oh well, now that it's over, I can hopefully move on to a project that will go slightly better than this. The Observatory is forever going to lag my world, so unless I can find a mod that tones that down, it's going to be a nuisance forever. What was the point of all of this, really? The library was a pain and I'll rarely use it. The shooting range acts to just be a place to plant trees, which any stretch of grass can do. The Observatory exists to make building around it a living hell, and the lab is just 20 lecterns. Is this my first existential crisis in this world? It's been nearly a year and a half's worth of working on it. I think the break was warranted. I think it's time to end the video. I'll come back to Minecraft with a spark for a new project next time, but this needs to end. As promised earlier, I'll take a trip down to the lab and go over the various entries made by the scientists working down there.
Entry number 1. Something about this unique, blocky world is appealing to me. It all feels so familiar, yet so distant at the same time. Exploring this universe will prove to be very interesting. But will I survive it? That's the question I'll see if I can't answer. Entry number 2. There's more life around. Something with a hint of intelligence. A sort of variety of wildlife at first, but within minutes, I discovered a civilization. A group of working class creatures who eat, sleep, and talk, just like us. Let's call these entities villagers. Entry number 3. They agreed to help me learn more about this world. This is great. Everything is going to plan. We've struck an agreement. I'll help them create a perfect world, free of trouble and danger, and they'll help me to discover every corner and learn all there is to know. I've also discovered they have an affinity with emeralds. I'll keep that in mind. Entry number 4. I found something close to the village, in the depths of the seas, amongst many deep-sea creatures. I found a derelict structure, one with obsidian, gold, and a mysterious red cobble. I believe this may be a hint of another world. I'll return to this. Entry number 5. We've had a visit from an interesting person. Another one of these villagers, sporting an eye patch and sailing a ship. He entered alongside a sheep he tamed and began getting aggressive with the townspeople, screaming about his father. The town's bodyguards weren't having it, but I convinced him to take a pacifistic approach. Entry number 6. He's been back and forth across the past few days. Over time, he seems to be calming down. I've learned of his name, Captain Roll, from the townspeople. This isn't the first time he's approached this area, but his taming led him to be more well-known. I may strike a deal with the fellow. Entry number 7. We've come to an agreement. Roar is able to come and go as he pleases, on the condition that he remains a pacifist and abides to our safety regulations. He seems to be on board with this. Since then, he's calmed down entirely. Still, we find him on occasion with his head in his arms, muttering about his father. He hasn't opened up yet. Entry number 8. The structure I found still interests me. I wonder what would happen if I repaired it. I'm not sure if leaving it out in the water is the best approach though. I'll bring it to the surface, but it will need to stay isolated. I can't risk the townspeople's lives. Entry number 9. I did it. I rebuilt the structure. With a little bit of fire, a magical energy emerged. Entering it took me to a red, hellish dimension, filled with aggressive pig people. They have an affinity for gold. Off in the distance, I can see something. A dark, red fortress. That's my next stop. Entry number 10. Flames engulfed me as I entered the fortress, with determination in my soul. Tall black skeletons chased me down the halls as fiery, levitating creatures shot me with all they had. But I was able to retrieve two things from them. One of the skeleton skulls, and a rod from the blazing beasts. I feel sick though. I think I should go home. Entry number 11. While I was gone, one of the villagers, Joseph Starr, was working on his farm. Two of his fruits just kept growing, one melon and one pumpkin. Suffice to say, he has become very rich from this. I might award him with some more land. That way we'll never have to worry about food ever again. Entry number 12. I consulted the local cleric about my findings, and to my surprise, he had been looking for these relics for years. Long ago, he ventured into the Nether with his partner. However, their partner didn't end up making it to the end of their travels. In their travels, they were able to retrieve more skulls, alongside a unique fungi, sand with trapped souls, and an interesting music disc. I thought about it, and I have to ask, what would happen if the skulls of the wither skeletons gained the powers from the souls of the soul sand? Entry number 14. The Star. It holds a great power, but no one's strong enough to bring back what we lost. For we will dedicate the star to our fallen cleric, Mr. Future will write to us. May you be happy with your partner now that you've reunited. Entry number 15. With Future Writerless gone, the village has fallen into despair. Some of the other villagers have mysteriously gone missing after the news became public. I can't sit around and watch this happen, so I've decided to continue on with this research. Entry number 16. I found his old diary, which details how Blaze's rod can be crushed into powder and combined with an ender pearl to create a mystical eye with tracking powers to an ancient ruin. I tried it out, and lo and behold, it was true. That man was a genius. Entry number 18. The eye led me to the ruin that Future Writerless was documenting. After some looking around, I found a portal with the exact same eyes laid in the frames. I placed one more in the singular, empty frame. The portal began roaring with energy. This was going to lead to another dimension. I need to prepare for this. Entry number 19. I got the best armor and weapons I could get, and made my way into the dark. I'm going to leave this entry for everyone. If I don't come back, I just want you all to know, to stay away from this place. It isn't worth it. If you see another entry after this, well, this may be worth exploring further.